So Stacy, thank you for joining us, and I'll let you jump in here.
Great. Great. There we go. Thank you so much. And this has been a lot of fun to be able to talk a little bit more, and especially to talk a little bit directly about each product and how its unique way it supports, like Derek mentioned, somatic education. And that is exactly how these products came to me, was looking at them in a way that I wanted to upgrade the elements of what I wanted to build out with my clients in terms of their body mapping, their self-awareness, and especially when people came to me as a PT, their injuries added extra interference with their self-awareness. And so it just kind of, worked from there. So the links, just a little bit of background between them. They are sections of the Smart Roller. And you can see when I do it this way that they have different contours, as you might guess. And hopefully I can give you some demonstrations. And then if you have any questions, I'd love to field them for you. Prior to COVID, I had a clinic, and so there was my staff therapists. I got to watch how they were using them too. They were not Feldenkrais practitioners, so it was really a lot of fun. They gave me insights to what they were doing. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit. I'm going to screen share and just give you a case study because I think that might help. So let's do that now. So this is a case study that I actually do have. There's two books that I want to mention today. One is the Smart Roller Guide, brings out all three products so that there is that information that you can get on OPTP. But also, I had mentioned before, there is like a textbook on the Feldenkrais method, and there's a lot of good representation on Pilates and yoga, and all kinds of things. So this was one of the case studies that I put there. And I love this little picture of this guy, because if you look at what he's done, he's made his own teeter-totter with this is one of the prototype links there. So before we get started, so anyway, so this was a woman in her 30s. She was a Pilates and yoga teacher, and her issues were neck and low back pain. And she, by her own self-diagnosis, said she was hypermobile. I didn't get, there was an ehlers or something, to more of an extensive element of that, but I could see her hypermobility and her extremities. So what I did, and this is kind of the nomenclature of the Feldenkrais method, there's a particular series that Feldenkrais built out titled The 5 Lines. And they're really imagery based. And when somebody, some people think that Feldenkrais is for loosening up or whatever it is, Feldenkrais is really to apply the principles of good biomechanics in the whole system. So when somebody is generally hypermobile, they need to learn how to stay in their lane. And what I have found that, it's kind of what my thinking is as children, we evolve off the trunk. We're on the floor, we're crawling, we're doing so many things to kind of create that agency of the trunk mechanism. But as adults, we tend to get, and then we build the limbs, as children, but as adults, we tend to get very limb friendly and we lose the trunk relationship. And particularly with somebody that I've seen, and I see quite a few people that have this excessive motion in their joints. And so I feel like they have to really incorporate more trunk, more dynamics between their hips and shoulders. So there's 5 lines, and it's hard to really appreciate until you've done these lessons, but I did them in 2 formats, and these are the 2 formats of the Feldenkrais method. Awareness of movement is the verbally directed guidance of these puzzles that you have them sync up all these little, they're very specific movement pieces so that they start to put their system back into a whole environment. Functional integration is the hands-on, and the hands-on is a very different approach or touch than my manual therapy approach. And I respect and very much recommend, and I refer out when somebody needs good manual therapy. But when it comes to my touch, I'm using it more of a listening way, and the listening's first, and then I work with the guidance system. So for her, I went very, very specifically through her trunk, through areas that I needed her to map in a little bit more clearly. So then here's where the links came in. And I thought you might appreciate this. So I brought her to something she was familiar with first. And this is for people that are familiar with Pilates, this is the combination chair, once called the Wunda chair. It's what Joseph Pilates developed for these, as I understand it, for these small apartments in New York. So they could have the value of the reformer and the other pieces of equipment in their own home, and it could act as a chair. Anyway, it's really got some wonderful things that you can do with it. So I actually picked this up from a wonderful, really innovator, Pilates person, Marie-José, who is just way above anybody that I've met in terms of a true somatic teacher by way of the Pilates method and fascial research and innovation. So she had showed me this, and I'm going to show you. And she particularly liked the link for this purpose so I'm taking down the bar. Those are some heavy springs that I'm holding down. And then I'm just letting the springs bring the forefoot up, because I found that she, like a lot of clients, can be very much inhabited in this mobility. So I was talking her through, this is me doing it, but I was talking her through the process so that she felt not just the right foot, she was sensing what she was doing on the left leg. So I was working very systemically, but I was using this approach that Marie-José did, and then switched to the other side but I had her feel it first. And then we went to differentiation of the trunk. This is what I think is really a lot of fun. You can make a caterpillar roller, and you'll notice I don't have to conjoin them. They are literally just freely loose links. And you saw the marble side, or maybe you didn't, but the marble side one is this one down to the pelvis. And then I had the three ones that are the purple side up, which meant this has more motion. This is less motion. So I was purposely, because I wanted her to do it in a very calibrated way, to play with differentiating the head, the ribs, and the pelvis. Once we did that, I had her, and this is how I like people to get off the roller and the links, and then take a moment to body scan, and then to bring it back. So now I want the floor to reflect what she just did. So the floor is the mirror of that process, okay? Then I love, not to get gender specific, but I also use this a lot for my male patients that tend to have a very fixed chest wall from working out, stabilizing it, those kinds of things. But in particular, again, I want to work three-dimensionally with my client with this idea to help her soften her chest, but not to make it so it doesn't have power and strength to work off of. And this works really well with the links. You can do it with the smart roller, but it's just a little bit more, there's a little more finesse with the links. So I'm having her rock the pelvis. This is me again demonstrating. And then I'm getting high enough, which she could do. And then I slide them under. And I chose the flat side here, but sometimes I will use the arc side. So here I was playing with her that she had more motion, but sometimes I like to do it a little differently. So then I'm having her, what's interesting is I'm having her, sorry about this, let's get that out of the way. I'm having her, most likely she's attending to what she's moving. But here's the treasure chest that's happening. So she doesn't realize how much, and you can see my head bob a little bit. I'm trying to make sure that my arms are hammocking, so I reduce the tension. My thumbs are together because I don't want, it's called a monkey hand or ape hand. I don't want wrist interference. And now I'm having her rock the pelvis. So maybe I'm integrating a little bit of early core relationship, but I'm doing it very systemically, asking her to be skeletal so that the skeleton can start to be the underpinnings of her understanding of her proprioceptive feedback to help weigh in on her interoceptive feedback as well. If you're a lay person, I apologize. I just thought I'd mention some things. Sometimes clinicians like to hear some of these things. Okay, so now, so this is not a video, but I wanted to show in the textbook, I talk about the progression of using those 5 lines with my Cadillac, which is, if you know it or don't know, it's the equipment that looks a lot like probably the foundation of Joseph Pilates' original equipment coming off hospital beds, because it's a flat, firm surface that, different than the reformer, that the horizontal springs move with the action of motion. In this case, the springs are working with her trunk. Before she got into this position, I'm bringing the spring in, what I've done is I've actually given her the 5 lines review, having her lift the leg a few times. And then I ask her, I call it 90, 90, 90. She's asked to find that relationship. I wait, I come in with the spring, and I just load. I want to load in such a way that she feels all the elements. I don't want to have her exhibiting active motion yet. I want her to start recognizing the stability of the parts. Then I bring it into a variety of range. A lot of times may even modified holding the spring for a while. And it's a modification of leg work, which we often know with Pilates. Working our way to dynamic posture, which is walking with the whole self. I added this with her. I do love the links just for the purpose of playing with the walking series. And one of my clients had a child that had an educational therapist, and they were having a lot of trouble keeping him attended. I was able to go meet with them, and believe it or not, he was okay with having little mini movement breaks. And we had him facing a corner of a room. It wasn't a discipline. It was really, he asked for it. And then we would put the links there, and his hands would be on the wall, and he would just jiggle out whatever he needed to do. So it's really, again, I want you to be as creative as you can. So I'm coming on with the resistance band. This is a very light, OPTP sells it, I think it's called the Saint band. So I don't want a lot of pull. I just want a kinesthetic feedback, because I'm asking her to recognize parts while and again, I'm walking her through it, I'm talking her to it. I'm watching her also to make sure she centrates, she keeps the alignment in her joints. Then I have her walk. You always give a pre and post scan with these. We eventually worked our way to modified planks with variation. So she was excited that she could get back to this. Sorry, and let's go back again. She's now getting very versed with her 5 lines, and she's able to apply the links. I've got her having stability, because I want the cupping of the hand to be really super friendly. You can see I have a little bit of hyperextension, and so it was really great for her to do what I'm doing here, is keep finding the sweet spot until she knows she's organizing in the trunk. And then we played with just doing a modified downward dog, finding that central, and I was coaching her about making sure she keeps her midline, so that we just keep helping her sync up those details. And that's that. So I will stop share. So I think I want to just point out that I know it's hard to come up with, how do I use these things? What do I do with them? I think you'd be surprised, and I love when people come back to me. I have learned watching children. I love the idea of seeing how they, as long as they're safe and as long as you can innovate, helping them have a fabric of self-organization that you've built on. So I think that's really very important. So that's what I had for you today. And tomorrow what we'll do is we'll talk about the links. And when I was making the Smart Roller, the wonderful Sherry Schroeder at the time, I said, I have this idea that I'd like to cut up the roller and make them into links. And she said, okay, all right. She went with it. And then they came back and they had the ends of the roller joking with me and saying, well, would these be good coasters? Well, I was in the sensory motor mode, so I went there to think about going right away of how to use the Smart Roller under people's bottoms, because that is pretty much how a lot of people are going to be. So if anybody has any questions, or if Derek, you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. I kind of ran through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's okay. We did actually have one person submit a question via email to me who saw this link on Facebook Live. So basically what they were asking is in terms of using the link specifically in a Pilates setting, is there anything else that you've seen Pilates instructors do successfully aside from using the links underneath the hands and maybe like a high plank position to teach some of the organizing concepts that you were referencing, and also obviously train for core stability? How else can instructors use them?
Well, I do believe that Pilates can have a leg up, so to speak, if they recognize how to holistically get them to feel their skeleton. So that's really a big part. So what I feel is that, you know, we organize our whole parts when we went to crawling and walking and so forth. And I know that there's a wonderful continuum instructor that plays with these 4 points. And she creates this idea of, Joseph Pilates was very fascinated with animals, cats in particular. So you can do a 4-point, just kind of, you know, she was mimicking crawling and having them organize that so that, you know, and I just think that I'm blanking on there is a particular pioneer in the Pilates world that comes from that instinctual place of looking at animals. But also, you know, the thing of standing, because if you're doing a standing Pilates class, I think I love standing Pilates work. I don't think we see enough of it, or maybe it's getting out there with Sherry Berkowitz, but I think having some standing Pilates work, you can prep them by just getting them to feel ground surface. The other thing I didn't mention, and it's more of a one-on-one, and I couldn't find the video fast enough, but it is in my Instagram. I taught a whole class where people worked with, and I think that you have the video on the links, right, Derek? That on the links,
Sorry, yes.
I know how I work on the proprioceptive of the foot ankle complex in a sitting position. And it's really valuable that you could take that and take them to the combination chair. You can put feet on the wall, and then you can kind of, if you want to build out and just, you know, play around and give them, facilitate weights, bands, whatever, so that you get them to keep thinking about these anchor points. So that people, because I think what happens, at least, where we can erode the benefits of Pilates is we can brace in particular areas without knowing. And those are, like I tell them, the top feeder fish. They're going to get stimulated when you do functional strengthening, even in the best of us. I mean, we just bring it along. And so what you want to do is kind of harvest the good stuff and then let them go into that field of resistance. And I think it's great. You know, we need it for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned one resource being Instagram. I know you're frequently posting content. You know, we like to search Instagram whenever OPTP gets tagged by somebody using a SMARTROLLER or links or sits. We make sure we save that and share it at some point. So definitely check out social media. That's another great place to learn how to use these products in other creative ways. Are there any other resources, Stacy, that you can think of? I mean, we want to mention the ebook, of course, that's not directly as much related to the links, but any other resources?
Yeah, smartroller.net. Just go to my website because there's a huge section on Q&A. It will take you to my YouTube channel, which I'm unfortunately changing it over. So there's still stuff I need to load up on it, but it will be in progress. And I do plan to do SMARTROLLER classes in 2023. So with the ebook, they can sign up if they have an interest and let me know what it'd be great if I send them or if they want to send me an email and say, what will you be covering or things like that. So
Sure.
I would very much be available if anybody had any questions.
Perfect. Yeah, we put a link to the ebook in the chat again. And when this is on Facebook, we'll put a link in the comments section there as well. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if you want to share this, as you know, the videos with, especially the case study, to show it to your physical therapist or whatever it is, saying, I saw this, you know, and is there a way we can incorporate this kind of thing? You know, that's a good way to bring it out, because we all as teachers and educators love to see what people are doing and create the environment that they can have access to it.
Definitely. Yeah. Tag the instructor, tag the individual we want to share it with, or just copy the link in the post and share it that way. great way to spread the knowledge. Yeah. Okay. Great, Stacy. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there any final words you want to say before
No,
we sign off? Okay.
Sam, thank you so much.
Yeah, and make sure you stay tuned in tomorrow for our last little installment here. We're going to be focusing on the sits, same time, different link, but just access through Facebook or Zoom. You guys know what you're doing now. So thank you for your time, Stacy. We really appreciate time and knowledge, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Bye, Derek.
Bye.